Rick Rosen here at Investment Funding, presenting our very special BRRRR Thrive educational team. And you should be able to go just about any time to our website at BRRRRthrive.com, B with 4 R's, Thrive.com, and learn more about the proper method of investing in real estate. Today we're going to be talking about the most beautiful secret in real estate investing. Once you mastered the secret that we're going to talk about, it will assure you that you'll know the outcome of your project as you start, as you develop it, and as you're going along. You'll be able to track it, and when you finally complete it, you'll be able to judge how close you were to your projections. And I think you're going to really like what we're going to teach you in the next couple minutes. So let's start with BRRRR Thrive Math. We want to learn about the math. That is the secret. Back when I was in school, they said you have to learn the Pythagorean theory. And a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And once they discovered that formula, they were able to do a lot of creative engineering, including building the pyramids in Egypt. Now we're going to learn some math that's going to help you build your personal portfolios right here in America. So let's get right on to the math. We're going to actually have a live example of a house that's going to be purchased, renovated, and then turned into a rental. So this particular home is located in northwest Detroit, and it's in a nice all brick neighborhood. And we're going to take a look at the BRRRR math used in this example of this house. Now that we have a house in mind for purchase, we need to be able to complete the complete BRRRR math formula. And if you are familiar with the formula, we have 70% of the improved value to work with, and that would be for both the acquisition and the renovation of the house. We cannot exceed 70%. My investors are also taught to include the acquisition and carrying costs of the home as well, and put all that in the formula. So if you were to take a bucket of money and throw it into this investment, we would like to see, after we fully renovate the home and then we refinance the house, how much of that bucket were we able to fill back up. Because if we fill that bucket up pretty close, we can take that bucket and go and do the whole process all over again and get a second home with that same bucket of money. Now, is there a law on how many buckets you can create? No. You could take that one bucket and over the years keep reinvesting. A very successful investor should be able to take that bucket and use it twice a year, so you're able to get 2 homes in 1 year. And in 5 years' time, potentially have 10 homes that you own as rentals, and all 10 are producing monthly cash flow for you, positive cash flow. And at the same time, you still have that bucket to go out find number 11. Isn't that amazing? Our first step, as you can see on the screen here, we need to look to see what renovated homes have gone for in that neighborhood. So we have one right here. We're pretty much in the 1/4 mile radius of the subject property. That's how appraisers look. They start with 1/4 mile out. And if you can't find that many comparables, you can go another 1/4 mile out. But if they're there, the appraisers are going to definitely use it. So here's what we found. We found a fully renovated one that was at 140 that sold. We have another one at 146. And if you take a look at it, today's date is August the 1st. And the date that this closed was June the 15th, so that has to be a pretty close comparable home that we're looking at. Here's another one that closed in May of this year at 149.9. As a matter of fact, this particular street I had refinanced as a lender, homes, and the appraisal came back for something similar as high as 160. Here's another 149.9. And here's one that went as high as 169. So what I usually recommend is get rid of the highest value one in that neighborhood that's close by and the lowest one and work with the middle ones. So you can see there's a lot of them that are in the high 140s, mid 140s, and the low is 140. So I probably would say you're very safe in the middle of 140s on this one. Here we are. We're looking at a BRRRR Math spreadsheet. And this spreadsheet is going to determine if we should make the purchase or not, along with the end result, how much money will be left in the pot at the conclusion of this cycle. Buy, renovate, rent, refinance, and repeat. So let's take a look. So if you look on the far left of the screen, you're going to see that the purchase price here was $67,500. The renovation cost $20,000. So we have a total of $87,500 invested, of which $74,000 is going to be lent on the property. That would be 20% down on the purchase price, and the investor is going to receive 100% financing on the renovation. So at this point, they got $13,500 of their money that they have to put down on the purchase price. When they add in their closing fees for the refinance, they have $1,000 for the broker, $1,500 for the lender, and $1,100 in what we call third-party fees, which is your title company. And if you were to have an appraisal, that's where that would go, but this one did not require an appraisal. Then we're going to take a look at carrying costs. This is 1% a month for 6 months, or $7,400. So that's 1% of $74,000. That's $7,400 in 6 months. Utilities, about $35 a month. So I need to back up a little bit. The actual cost for 6 months was 10% of the $74,000 or $7,400, not 1% a month. So if you take in the cost of carrying it plus the purchase and all the costs, we're at about $24,685. But we anticipate this is a light to medium renovation, that it's going to be no more than 4 months to put it into service as a rental, and that we may collect 2 months rental before the 6-month term is over on the loan. So we may be able to recoup $2,800. And we also have to calculate that we have about $1,000 in taxes and insurance on the property. So when the dust clears, we're now about $22,888 out of pocket. So now we're going to go for the third R. So the second R was rent. Now we're going for the third R, refinance. So we were going conservative on the value at $140,000. It's always wise to go conservative. You won't be disappointed on the appraisal. And the lender, for good credit, would go 75% of the value. You can go 80%, but what we find is the terms are usually much better at 75%. So that means we will be able to recover money on this. We have $105,000 that would be given to us from the lender, and at this point we have $22,888 into it, so that kind of gives us $81,400 to the good so far. But we do have closing costs for this refinance, so we add up the fees here, which is $5,775. I usually tell people, if you're really not sure what it's going to be, take about 6% of what your mortgage is. So you have $105,000, you take 6% of that, it's about $6,000. And oddly enough, that was a little bit higher than what the actual cost is. So the total funds at closing that's required to get us to where we need to go is $87,175, and we subtract that from the 105, and that gives us cash that we can do with anything we want with of $17,825. We subtract that from the $22,885, and that tells us at this point we're about $5,000 out of pocket that'll be left behind in that house. Now, the good news is that this property was going to receive a mortgage at 7% at $105,000. That means that 7% of $105,000 is about $7,000 for the interest each year. Now, we take a look at the expenses that go into this one. So you have taxes at $1,105 annual. But what we do is we will go to next year's taxes. We add 50% because generally the taxes will jump 50% once you uncap the taxes. The insurance, we decided to increase that. On the average, it seems like insurance is going up about 20 to 25%, so we included an increase there. Repairs escrow, how about that? You may have a fully renovated home on your hands right now, but what we recommend is you take 5% of the rent and put that into a separate side account, and that money will go towards any new repairs that will pop up out of the nowheres. Hot water tank goes kaplooey on you. Maybe some of the appliances you have in the house have to get replaced. Whatever it is, you now have what we call a sinking fund, and the money is there to pay for these things. And guess what? The more homes that you own, the sinking fund will be able to bail you out. So you'll never have to dip into your pocket to pay for anything ever again, as long as you own these properties, as long as you take that 5% out. We allow 10% for property management. We highly recommend that you hire a property manager because they actually pay for themselves in the long run. It doesn't cost you anything, so why not let them do all the work? We also have a long-term vacancy factor of 5%. One particular home may not meet the criteria, but if you have a portfolio of homes, 5% is pretty accurate. So that gets us down to what we call net operating income. That's after you pay all your expenses. We have $11,500 going into it, and even next year we're looking at, if we don't even increase the rents, we're looking at a similar amount. So if you have a $700 principal and interest payment, that'll give you an actual cash return of $200 to $300 per month. So if you take the average of these two, that's $300 a month. That means that if you go into your $5,000, then it means that in about 4 years' time or so, you'll have your $5,000 back. But it may be only 3 years, because if in year 2, 3, and 4 you increase the rent, you're going to find that your positive cash flow increases, net operating income goes up. And typically what we're finding is that if you have any money left behind in 2 to 3 years, you'll have it back in your pocket. And guess what? From that point on, it's all free money coming in every month for the rest of your life. This secret that I'm sharing with you, this BRRRR Math Formula, is what makes investors wealthy. I welcome you to come back to BRRRRThrive.com to take this 5-step tutorial to master this method that we're discussing, the BRRRR method. Now, many of you out there have heard of it. Many of you out there have actually utilized some components of it. What we're recommending is mastering the method so that every time you have a new project, you're going to know exactly how much money out of pocket. Thank you for joining us.